So we're going to have a little look at a cross halving joint. This is literally where we take half the timber out of each piece and join them together in a cross shape. So as you can see, I've already checked my timber square and marked my all important face and edge, and this one as well, face and edge. Okay, so they're going to go together with the edge marks, face marks, so they're always going to go together in that orientation. So just having a quick look at this piece, you can see on there, there's some knots here and here, and one right in the side of the piece of timber there. Now that is going to make notching out that halving quite tricky, because the grain is going to be harder there and it's going to want to split in all sorts of strange directions. So I have disregarded this piece of timber and selected another one much more suitable. So you always want to be looking out for strange stuff like that when you're selecting your timber. So as this is a halving joint, we're going to halve it directly through the centre. So halving. So to find the centre of my timber, I'm just going to pop one piece in the vise. So I could measure. Okay, so this timber is 30 by 40, so I could measure 15, but doing that accurately on both pieces of timber, you can get close, but there are more accurate ways of doing it. So what I'm going to do is get my marking gauge. Okay, so this one's a marking gauge, it's just got the one pin. Okay, so you can get mortise gauges as well, which have 2 pins, but this one's just a marking gauge with the 1 pin. And I'm going to estimate where I think the centre of my piece of timber is, and I think it's about there. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to gently roll that over, make a little mark in the centre, turn it round and make another little mark. So you can see the 2 pin marks there, there's a slight gap between those. So the centre of those 2 pin marks is going to be dead the middle of my piece of timber, because I've measured from both sides. So I'm just going to adjust that pin. Can be a bit fiddly. Okay, and just go again. So on that one, you can see there, those pin marks are pretty much dead in line. So I'm going to leave it there with that one and call that the centre. The college diagram says we need to come in 70mm from one end. So I'm going to get my rule. And again, I'm just going to go onto that 100 line, so it's a little bit more accurate, as we did when we were doing the saw, marking out on the sawing. And I'm going to come along to 70mm and just put a little tick mark with my scalpel at 70mm. So I'm not marking anywhere, just put in a little tick mark. I'm going to get my square. So on my face edge, okay, so the one towards me is my face edge. Pinch the square nice and tight up to the scalpel, okay, and then lean the scalpel over a little bit, because you've got a bevel on that scalpel, so you need to just lean it over ever so slightly so the bevel is vertical. And then I'm going to really lightly score across, sever those fibres, and a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. Okay, so you want to do light strokes. If you push too hard, you'll bend the blade and the scalpel will just want to follow wherever the grain's going, especially when you're coming down the grain. So next one, I'm going to get my piece of timber, put it up right on that scalpel line, so you're just covering the scalpel line. So you just put a little tick mark this side, okay, keep the scalpel there, move the piece of timber, and again get my square. The face edge is facing me, so the stock of my square on the face edge, and again lean the scalpel over and gently strike across once, twice and 3 times. Okay, so next thing we need to do is mark our halving, how far down we're going to go. So now I've got those 2 lines on the front, I can estimate how far I need to go between those lines. And what I'm going to do is just lean that pin mark. So push the stock up to your face and gently push away. Okay, so again here you want to be really gentle. We're going along the grain now. Once, twice, 3 times. So I find it easier to push the stock up on there. Just pivot the point until it's touching and then run it away from you. You can do it. So this is pointing the other direction and pull it towards you. If you find that easier, but I can see what I'm doing there. And just gently do that. So I'm flipping it round 180 this way. Okay, so I'm not turning it over because now I'm going to be on the wrong face. Okay, so twist it this way so your stock is still on the same face. And again, lightly score down through. So next job is to join up our face lines down to our edge mark. Okay, so again, square on your face side. Now I can just feel when my scalpel drops in that previous mark right on that corner. Okay, so just run along and you'll feel it catch in that little groove. So slide your square up to there, and then from halfway, once, twice, 3 times, and again from this side, square up, once, twice, 3 times. I'm just going to go over that slightly, so I need to go a little bit further. And this side as well. Lean the scalpel. And oops, wrong face. And just extend that a little bit. I was a little bit short there. Cool. So I have put my face mark right in the piece I'm going to cut out. So I'm just going to move that further along. All right. So I'm just going to pen this in so you can see it a little bit easier. You wouldn't normally do this because you want the accuracy. So if you are going to pencil it in so you can see it a little bit better at all, just have a really sharp pencil and you'll feel it catch in that scalpel line, and just really gently track down with the pencil. The scalpel line should guide your pencil. It needs to be really sharp to do this. What you don't want is big thick pencil lines blurring your accuracy, so you need a nice fine scalpel line so you know exactly where you're going. And then what you can do is just rub over that pencil. Okay, and it should just leave you with enough pencil dust in there just to help you see. You don't want lots of blurred, smudged pencil lines everywhere. The more accurate you are with your marking out, the more accurate your joint will be. So sawing out our first one, I've just blackened those lines a little bit more, and I'm going to mark the waist. Okay, so if you've got multiple components and you're doing similar joints or ones that are ever so slightly different from each other, then marking your waist is a good habit to get into. Just so putting that in my vise. Okay, so one thing to notice is the baseline here is getting very close to the top of my bench. So what I don't want to do in my nice beach workbench is start cutting into it. The toe of the saw can quite easily damage this. Okay, so you need to be a little bit careful. You could use a bench hook to help you, okay, which is one of these. So it's got a little stop here and a stop there, and you can put this piece in your vise and push your timber up to there to saw against. Okay, so you can saw against that. So hopefully we'll get around to making one of these in college, okay, as soon as we get back to see each other again. But in the meantime, I'm just going to be careful and avoid the surface of my workbench, okay. So again, stepping back, giving myself plenty of room away from the saw. My hips and body are out of the way. I'm stood in a sideways position, finger pointing down the saw plate, nice light grip, okay. And so you can try and get your nose over your wrist and your elbow, shoulder, all in a nice straight line. And again, I'm putting my thumb just up here to help act as a small stop, and I'm going to try and just nibble away, so gently pushing forward, okay, and lowering my wrist, lowering my hand, lower, 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 okay, and now I've got a nice straight line across here, barely 1/2 mil deep, but that just helps establish that straight line, and then I can just worry about tracking down. Just stopping, check how I'm doing. I'm getting quite close to this line over there. So just take the weight of the saw, nice and gently. A little bit more to go. Okay, so keep an eye on that baseline. You don't want to saw below it if you can avoid it, but you want to saw right up to it, because that will help you with your chiseling out at a later stage. Okay, same again this side. Nice stepping back, thumb just on there, and pushing forward, and lowering my hand, establishing that horizontal mark. Then I can just focus on tracking down the front line here, and keep stopping, checking how you're doing. Use all of the length of the saw. Okay. Looking good. So now you don't have to worry about being too accurate with this one. I'm just going to put a couple of cuts across the centre just to make the waste easier to remove. Oh, just cut my bench. Perhaps I should have used a bench hook. And one more. So slowing down as you get to the bottom of the cut, keep an eye on what you're doing. There we go.